Welcome to the Motor Mouth YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And we do full-length car reviews each and every week. You should watch them all. And if you do, you know halfway through we stop for a segment called Questions, Coffee, and Cars. We've spun it off. We're at 119. If I wanted to get a question in, how would I do that?
Follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning I put a post out on Instagram asking for questions. It's only up for a short time. And once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
Love your reviews and congrats on the MX-5. Thank you. Why doesn't Subaru have front parking sensors on any of its vehicles?
Well, research department reached out to the product planner for Subaru, one of the product planners. There's Evan and there's Brad. And
There's Brad. Brad.
What did Brad say?
Brad said that this hasn't been an issue with their buyers of Subaru models not having front parking sensors. So it hasn't been a concern to them. But you're right, none of the models have them. So he says there's a couple reasons for it. First off, some trims have a 360 camera, rear view camera, and some also have a front camera, depending on the trim that you choose. He said that what they've found, Subaru says, that in slushy conditions, snowy conditions, the sensors don't work very well. And I have to say, I've noticed that on our Cayenne. When it gets snow in it, then it starts going off all the time. It can be a problem. And so he says, because of this issue, they've decided not to go with it. He also says that visibility in Subarus are very good, and this hasn't been a problem for Subaru buyers.
Couple of things. We talked about this last night or the night before at dinner. And our son, who drives a Honda Civic, it has a backup camera, it has no sensors. He was mortified. He said, "What the hell? Like, what do you need sensors for? You have eyes." His exact words.
He's only 19.
Yeah, and he can parallel park. He's very good. And he's like, "You have eyes," which is true.
Yes.
But my whole thing on this, from Subaru's point of view, is the fact that a lot of their buyers have come from a car that never had them. So they've never experienced them. If you came from a luxury product that had front sensors and then had a Subaru, you go like, I kind of miss that. But if you came from, say, a Honda Civic into a Subaru, you wouldn't even notice. So it really comes down to the psychographic and the demographics of the people who buy these cars. I just don't think they've really experienced it in the past. Or most of them haven't.
We have it on our vehicle. I happen to really like them. I think that I would miss it.
But
now,
Andrea, you've got eyes.
I have eyes. And I said, yes, but when you park, you don't have to pay that much attention because beep, 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 beep. And then he says, well, maybe you should pay attention.
Okay, we have two Cayennes. We have this one, and we have an old one, a first generation one that has no backup camera and has no sensors front or back. And when I drive that one after driving this one, I do miss the sensors.
See?
I miss the backup sensors.
Yeah, of course.
But the front ones I don't need.
Well,
I'm with Charlie. I'm with Charlie.
sensor.
I got eyes.
I got eyes, yeah. Well, we all have eyes, and we parallel park all the time. So yes, I could easily do it without it, but they're nice to have. Hi, love your show and great work. Thank you. Looking at getting the 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid. I know Honda is charging quite a bit, but I still like them. I live in northern BC, and I'm wondering your thoughts on hybrids in regard to cold weather reliability, prices, competition, and thanks. Keep up the great work. We're finally getting it.
Yeah, we actually got an email yesterday. It was like Christmas came early, and they said the long-awaited hybrid Civic is coming, and we have it booked for the first week of October. Yeah, so it's going to be just a few weeks away. We can't wait to drive it. And we know it's a big deal, especially in Canada, because fuel prices are much higher here. So what you have to know about hybrids is the gasoline engine will be on in a Civic all the time because of their hybrid system. With a RAV4, it would need to run the engine to get the oil up to operating temperature before it would do its dance in between electric and gas. So they do suffer diminished fuel economy in the winter, but you make up for it in better weather.
Yeah, it's a blend, right? So a bit of a compromise there. Some people are reporting 25% less than the EPA numbers in cold climates in the wintertime. So you have to consider that. I think that I haven't even driven the Civic Hybrid yet, but I like the Civic. And yes, Honda is charging a premium. You can get a Hyundai Elantra Hybrid for less money than the starting price of the Civic Hybrid in Canada. It's $35,000. And you can get a less expensive Corolla as well.
Corolla isn't maybe as sexy, but it's got the all-wheel drive. And if you're living in Northern Ontario, is that where it was?
No, he said Northern BC.
Northern, wherever you're living north somewhere.
Somewhere north.
If you're in Canada and you're in a northern part of the province, maybe the all-wheel drive would be a good idea. I mean, you can get by with regular just winter tires. Of course, you know that already because you live in the north. But maybe the Corolla, and the Corolla's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
But the Civic looks so good. That's the thing.
And the thing about the Civic is Honda has placed those hybrid trims at the top, replacing the old 1.5T, their turbo models, which were in the Touring and the EXL. So it's going to have more stuff in it anyway.
Strictly on quiet, ride, and luxurious interior. What's your top 2 to 3 picks for best compact luxury SUV? I watched the top 5 video from earlier this year, but have a hard time gauging interior poshness and ride noise.
Okay, I already know my one. Do you know yours?
Yeah, I've picked 3.
I've got
what
one.
Would you? What are you
I'm going to do
doing?
3, 2, 1. What's your top pick?
Okay, well, let me pick the one that I think
I got to remember the
is
name because I always get the name
most-
screwed up.
Okay. I think I'll do it. Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Lincoln
XC60.
Corsair.
So I have Lincoln Corsair on my list as well, and I think that is terrific. The XC60 from Volvo, another fantastic one. Refined ride, super smooth, quiet cabin, luxurious interior.
I just think the Corsair, especially when you get on those nicer trims, like the higher trims, they did a really nice job with that
Really
vehicle.
nice job.
I'm a big fan of the interior. Except for the piano shifter thing. You get used to it after a couple of weeks. But I just think that's one of those vehicles that just flies so far under the radar, people don't even think about it. We forgot about one, Andrea.
I know what you're going to say.
It's one of the, I got to figure out the name. I can't figure out the name. It's
I know what
Buick.
You're thinking.
It's a Buick. What the hell is it called? It's the Buick Insight.
Envision.
I knew that.
It's the Envision, but
I
you
didn't
know
know
which
Envision,
one?
but I said
You know
Insight.
which one I'm going to say now, and you're going to be like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Mercedes-Benz GLC.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That I was shocked. They have really
They polished
changed
it
that
up.
one up.
Yeah, they polished it all up.
Yeah.
See, Mercedes-Benz for the C-Class and the GLC, and they're both shared on the same platform, so they obviously have similar characteristics.
Yeah.
They went traditional luxury.
They really did on that one. So that's another one. The new one, though. The new one to look at. Hi from New York. I love your channel and your videos. Thank you. You guys are my fave auto reviewers out there. Do you really need the turbo when considering the Mazda CX-30, CX-5, and CX-50? I've been looking at a CX-30 as my next vehicle, wondering if the turbo is worth the extra cost and miles per gallon reduction.
You're just going to answer yes or no right now. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
No.
On any of them.
On any of
The
them.
2.5 is so good. You don't need, save your money.
Save your money. It's terrific. Would you buy a new Chevy Trax or a used Mazda CX-5? I think it would come down to how used Mazda CX-5. I want to have some of that technology that's been missing in some of the previous CX-5s.
Yeah, it depends how old it is because you're right, Andrea. The head unit on some of those older CX-5s was so slow, the processing power in the back end of it, you would start the car and there would be this wheel. You know the wheel when your computer isn't working and it keeps spinning around and around? That could last for like 40 seconds.
Torture.
It was torture. And the other thing is, the backup camera wouldn't go over top of it. You had to wait for the whole system to boot up.
It was too much. It was too much. So if you're talking quite old CX-5 versus the Trax, I personally would go for the Trax. I know some of you are going to go, it's not reliable, blah, blah, blah.
I love the Trax.
I think the Trax is terrific for what you get. It's a great, kind of economy-focused crossover with some great tech.
So the most expensive Trax in Canada is like 31 grand. including freight, PDI, and dealer fees. 31 grand loaded. The most expensive one in the United States is under $25,000. It's crazy good value. We really enjoyed driving it, and you're getting a brand new car with a full warranty. I do remember what year they changed the infotainment system on the Mazda.
Do
You know
you?
why? Or the
Why?
Mazda. Because I edit all the videos, and I
Yeah.
can see it in my mind. I can see it. It was halfway through 2022. They came out with a 22 and a half model year.
That's right.
And I can see it because I have it 22.5 CX5. So if you get a 2022, make sure it was built in the latter part of the year.
For sure.
And then you're going to get the better processing speed for the infotainment system. But I don't know. It depends, like, if you're going to it's a buy and hold for long term, or if you're just going to keep this car for 3 or 4 years. If you're just going to keep it for a short term, you just need good, cheap transportation, tracks all day.
Tracks all day. Hey guys, love your show. I wanted to know your thoughts on leasing an RX 500H versus the MDX Type S. Currently leasing a 2022 NX 350 and I like it, but I miss the power and fun factor from my previous IS 300. Have 2 small kids and it's starting to feel cramped in the NX, so I'd like something roomy. A third row is nice, but not necessary.
Oh boy. The only thing that comes, I have an easy answer for this, but the only thing it comes down to is how much you want to spend on gas, because for me it's Type S all day.
Type S is great, but it's more money. In Canada, the Type S starts at over $90,000.
Yeah, but how much is that 500H? That's spendy, man.
It starts at $85,000.
What's $5 grand between friends?
And you've got that hybrid max powertrain. The RX is really, I feel, a terrific vehicle. You know, if you don't care about the space and you're already with Lexus, I think I'd go RX myself.
And the other thing is RX has a really roomy back seat. So if you're going from an NX to an RX, you're getting a much bigger back seat and a really big cargo area. But Type S, twin turbo, 3-liter V6 engine, 10-speed automatic transmission, air suspension that does what it says on the box. It's got Brembo front brakes, and it just looks the business. We're driving one this week, which is probably why you asked the question. And I would put that one not really up against the 500H, but against the Q7, against the X5, against the GLE. And when you compare it against that snack bracket, it's a deal.
But if you want a hybrid, you got to go with Lexus. Hi guys, love your reviews. Do manufacturers of vehicles restrict dealerships from transporting, selling new vehicles to other dealerships in other provinces? For example, if there is excess new vehicle inventory at a Ford dealership in Northern Ontario, why can't they sell it to a Ford dealership with a shortfall of that inventory in Manitoba, even if it is part of the same dealer network?
Happens all the time.
So I reached out to a few manufacturers, and there's no strict rules that you can't do that. It's just that they want something in return. So if one dealership is asking for something, you have to give something in return. Also, there's shipping costs, which is a real problem. And the only way really to change that would be if you know that you're going to get 5 certain vehicles, you can change the shipping destination before the vehicle is built, but then they say, what's the point of that? Because they need the vehicle right now for the consumer who wants to buy it. So it doesn't always work. Most will just deal within their little area, but they may reach out across a province, within that province, but not across Canada.
If it's a sold unit, so if I go in and I want a Ford 350 King Ranch, and my dealer doesn't have one, but there's one next door in Alberta, it would probably be the other way around because they go through trucks over there like crazy.
Yeah.
But they would say, okay, hey Zach, I see you got an F350 King Ranch. We have a sold order. And there would be a non-refundable deposit on that vehicle, and the person who buys is going to have absorb the freight, right?
Yeah.
So that vehicle would then get shipped. It's probably around sold units. They're not going to be just horse trading vehicles willy-nilly because they need more trucks or they need more cars. It's basically they're looking for a specific vehicle, specific color, specific trim, and that dealer has it. They'll do a deal with them.
I just got the call for a 2025 Kia Sorento SX PHEV. I currently have a RAV4 Hybrid Limited 2022. I'm having second thoughts about trading in my paid-off RAV just to have a PHEV. What are your thoughts? Keep the RAV4. Keep the RAV4. You've got it paid off.
We have Gino. Remember Gino in Quebec? He waited for over a year to get his RAV4, and he had his name on a list for a PHEV.
Yep.
He got the RAV4. He's had it for about 4 or 5 months. And then they called and said, by the way, we've got a PHEV. Do you want to trade your RAV4? And I said, don't do it.
No.
I don't think.
Nope.
I
say stick with what you have. You already have great fuel economy with the hybrid RAV4.
And what year is the RAV?
It's a 2022.
Oh, keep it.
I mean, unless you really want that third row, but if it's just about getting a plug-in hybrid, no. Keep the RAV4 hybrid that is totally paid off.
My favorite line is, the least expensive car is the one you own. And my other line is, buying a new car to save a few bucks at the pump is an expensive way. No, I screwed up the line. Buying a new car is an expensive way to save money on gas.
Totally.
The cheapest car is the one you own,
yeah.
And buying a new car is an expensive way to save money on gas. You've got to pay tax. You've got to pay all these fees. Keep the car.
And sounds like you like the RAV4 hybrid. Keep it. Love the channel, was shopping for a new car and love the review videos that you do. Settled on a Corolla Cross XSE, which should hopefully arrive in the spring. So I'll be getting a 2025 model. Any idea when Toyota will be releasing information about next year's models? I see details about the new Corolla on their site with some changes. So Toyota typically will release information about the next model year in November.
Well, it's also, it's funny, it happens starting in the summer, depending on the model and when the factories are redoing them. I just got an email this morning about the Sequoia, right? So they've obviously released the information on that, and they put the press release out today. So it could be any time.
Could be. I spoke to Toyota because you guys had a question about the RX, and they said November. So I'm going with the same thing. But yes, let's just say anytime in the fall. The rumors are about the Corolla Cross is that for 2025, it is going to get a refresh with some tweaks. Things like exterior tweaks, maybe an updated grille, new headlamps, interior, the possibility of an available digital driver display, and a larger touch screen. So these are some things to look forward to, but the digital driver display and the larger touch screen will be based on a trim level.
Yeah,
it's not going to come standard with it. So I don't know. Oh, you ordered the XSE. So yeah, I mean, you could get that. Absolutely. But these are just rumors until we hear official reports from Toyota. We'll keep it as a rumor.
It's surprising, though, because Toyota is not typically in a rush to update cars. No. And the vehicle's only 2 years old. And the fact they're coming to market with rumored changes is good to see, because they've been sleepy with updates. And I think they see the Korean manufacturers are relentless with updates, and I think that the refresh cycle for models for any brand is going to have to be quicker based on the in-dash stuff. Yeah,
Koreans are amazing with that. Sometimes too much.
Well, design-wise, sometimes too much.
Like you do a refresh and you're like, holy smokes, it's like a whole redesign. Are there any features or options that you feel should be included in every single vehicle sold in the U.S. and Canada? Why are they making us pay extra for that? Should be standard equipment. There's a couple for me. What about you?
Well, I think it really depends north and south of the border. Like, you're not selling a car in Canada unless it has heated seats. I mean, it's got to be a real base-based, cheaper strip model, just a value leader to not have heated seats.
I'm not even sure there are any.
Well, there probably is, but that's really a gateway. You need to have heated seats. So those sorts of things are important for Canadians. In the southern United States, people could give a rat's ass about heated seats. Yeah. They could give a cool ass about heated seats.
And a lot of times in the U.S., heated front seats are not included as standard equipment. So for me, there's two. Heated front seats, a must. I believe it should be standard equipment. And I think now, tech-wise, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, I cannot stand it when I see a new vehicle comes out and the base trim is wired. It irritates me. Toyota, I'm going to say, I'm going to mention.
Are you going to get there?
I am.
Okay, so I'm going to bring it up.
Toyota offers it as standard equipment, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Way to go, Toyota. There is one brand that annoys me that doesn't, and it's Mazda. And I'm so ticked
Can
off.
I just jump in here, Andrea?
Do it.
Andrea's beloved little Ruby, the MX-5 Miata, with the Recaro seats and the performance pack on it, and she loves driving that car. What do you hate about it?
I hate it that it's wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And that GSP model in Canada only comes with wired. And I had to compromise because I wanted the sport package with
And what does the GTI have when you get it, Andrea?
Wireless Apple
you
CarPlay and
get in that
Android
car,
Auto.
you start it up, and
Love
within
it.
like 15 seconds it goes, maybe not even 15 seconds, it says Andrea's Galaxy
I
24.
love it. And do you know what irritates me even more
What's that?
about
Tell me
Mazda?
more.
Is that the GSP is equivalent to the Club model in the US, and
do they
that
get-
Club model gets wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
The other thing is, it's such a wee tiny car. There's nowhere for Zork's big Galaxy Ultra to fit.
My phone has a hard time like putting it in when it's all plugged in and the wires.
Plus,
are
the
up.
GTI has a wireless charger, wireless Android and Apple. It's got front
Okay,
parking sensors
Zach,
too.
You don't need to rub it in. But everything else about the vehicle
It's fantastic.
is fantastic. But I think that's a real problem with Mazda. And you know what? There's some other vehicles that they have that they don't offer wireless as standard, and that is a must for me.
We were on a product launch, I think it was Volkswagen, and they were talking about Jetta and the GLI because we were there for that. And they said it's basically a baseline. They said brands that don't have Apple and Android, it's just a non-starter.
Yep.
So I think that for Canadians, it's heated seats, and for Andrea, it's wireless except for the MX-5.
Except for the MX-5. I know. So the only thing I could have done was I could have gotten the GT model, but then I don't get the Recaro seat, so I had to compromise. So it's just the way it is for me. I'm going to have to just suffer through. So if you want to get a question in, follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
So we'll talk to you then.
Thanks for watching.